Hello everyone, it's Ange de Lumière here. I'm a spiritual lawyer and an intuitive business strategist, and I help women in business who would like to combine logic to magic, would like to combine some incredible business skills that they have, but also with their intuition, and this is one of my passion, as well as blending in spirituality. So I've come to live every day this week, starting 2 days ago, to talk about business spirit guides. In my first video, I talked about what is a spirit guide, because there's a lot of confusion and not everybody knows, especially because I'm talking to people who are in mainstream business who might not have any idea of all these things. Like in a way, I'm talking to my younger self, because as you know or may not know, I used to be an international business lawyer. I started my career in the 90s as in a law firm, one of the most prestigious international law firm in the world, actually. I know there's not only one, but it was a pretty prominent one. And I loved every bit of the work that I did as a lawyer in the 15 years of my career. But there was something missing for me. There was two aspects that were missing in my job as a lawyer in the corporate. One was that my intuition was not nurtured or honored or anything like that. And the second is that there was not enough spirituality in my surrounding, nothing. And when I talk spirituality, it's not religion, it's not woo-woo, it's more that deep heart connection. Because I believe that spirituality is only about the heart. So this is why I've come back after exploring various modalities in intuition and psychic arts for now over 10 years, and as well as healing modalities. I've come back now wanting to work in business, mainstream and all sorts of business really, to help bring all that wealth and that depth of work into the business world and the corporate world. So as I said just earlier in video 1, we talked about what is a spirit guide. In video 2 yesterday, we talked about why would Steve Jobs wants to work with us. And by now I'm fairly open about the fact that Steve Jobs is my main business guide. And we've had a rocky start, but we're all good now. And today I want to talk about how do spirit guides help us, because there's many different ways for them to help us. And I want you to understand that you don't actually need to be psychic to work with a business spirit guide. And that's incredibly important, because I no longer want to see a world where there's on the one side the business world and on the other side the spirit world. I think the two are interconnected. There are lots of businessmen in the spirit world that are very, very keen to continue to make an impact by helping us on Earth. I talked about Steve Jobs and why he wants to work with me and possibly other people, because he wants to support the feminine model of doing business, because it also benefits men. And we had such interesting discussions in one of the business groups I belong to in the past few days on Facebook, because first, a lot of people didn't like Steve Jobs, and I completely get it, because that's one of the reasons why I said to him I didn't want to work with him to start with when he first turned up. But there was a lady who said, I can't seem to find a person of the female, let's call it gender, that would inspire me in my business, and they don't really relate to the man like Steve Jobs, because he was part of the bullying culture to a certain extent, although he was also, I think, a victim of it. He kind of was stuck in that energy. And the only person they were thinking was Oprah Winfrey, but she's not dead yet, so you can't really have her as your business spirit guide. But what I want to say here is that in the spirit world, they go beyond gender. So it doesn't matter if the person that is going to work with you was a male, because at the moment it's true that the business spirit guides that are available to support us are more have been males in their past incarnations, because I just want to say as well that we probably have been both, even though we might have our preference, because otherwise, well, first of all, in the spirit world there is no gender, there is no male or female. It means that I've been up much earlier than I was supposed to. Let's get back on this point, is that I don't want you to get hung up on the fact that if you're a female entrepreneur, there might only be male business spirit guides available for you to work at this point, because first of all, that's not actually true. There's lots of female business spirit guides that are there. They might not be as famous as the male ones, but they're there to support you, and it doesn't matter if you know who they are. And this is a very important thing I want to mention, because for years I had no idea who worked with me. All I knew is I was calling in guides from the highest vibe possible. That would be a match to mine, obviously, so I needed to work on my vibe to make it as high as possible so that I could attract really high vibe guides. Because as I mentioned yesterday, I believe everybody's got guides, including Donald Trump, and so working on our vibe is really important so we attract a good tribe around us. So how do they help us in our business? Well, first, they plant ideas in our mind. They guide us in this way. So you're not going to get like an apparition, where some people do, but most of us don't. And I'm actually quite grateful it doesn't happen to me, because, oops, I've got an itch, because that would completely freak me out. You know, that I think one of the big resistance I have as a psychic is to see spirit. And there's one of my colleagues, I'm going to call her a colleague on Facebook, actually reached out to me one day to explain to me why I had such a resistance. And she said it's because as a child I had seen my grandmother at the foot of my bed, and it had completely freaked me out. I was a very little child and I had no one to talk about this thing at all. And she was quite stern looking as well. Was it my grandmother or my great grandmother? I'm not quite sure. I think it was my great grandmother. So I kind of shut down my third eye, and I haven't been able to open it again in that way, because I am in effect very, very scared of seeing spirit, and I have to live with it. But that doesn't mean that I can't use my skills, that I can't use my intuition. And maybe you're in the same position as I am. So I want to say you absolutely don't need to be clairvoyant or clairaudient to work with business guides, and something that we will explore in my webinar on Monday, because that's really important for people to understand. You don't need to be in any of that stuff. In fact, I believe that some of the most talented scientists, business people, artists, and I've said it and I will say it again, actually worked with guides and channeled information without knowing that they did. They just got their information and their inspiration. That's what the word inspiration comes from. It comes from the word spirit, inspiration, in spirit. So we don't need to know these things to actually work with them. We don't need to train as a psychic to be able to work with business spirit guides. And they're available right away to you. So how are they going to help you? As I said, they will inspire you by giving you ideas. They will bring people to you in synchronicities. They will give you the information. I know they work through the internet. I know they tweak, they temper with anything electronic. So I've had actually my phone literally work on its own, and I know it was Steve because he loves to temper with my phone, and playing a song randomly without me even touching it. Now he doesn't do that too often. He knows it freaks me out a little bit, but at the same time, at that moment when he did it, it was a really good thing that he did, because I needed a really good reminder that he was working with me. And I usually discard him most of the time. Honestly, I still do. I still forget that I have all these guys, because on some level it's a bit overwhelming. It's a bit too much, especially because they're famous, and for me that's a put off. So I'm working through my own issues around this. I have another incredible team of business spirit guides who are the Rockefellers, and again they presented themselves once to me one day, and I still don't remember to reach out to them, but I know that they're in the background because they were incredible philanthropists, and for me philanthropy in business is something incredibly important. And this is where Steve raises his hand and say, I'm sorry I didn't do any of that stuff when I was on earth. I was absolutely wrong, and I want to put this right. So the business guides, or any kind of guides, but business guides, I'm talking about business. This is my audience, and I want you to understand how incredibly helpful they can be. They're like your networking team from heaven. They will bring you the right people as soon as you're ready to do something, as soon as you're ready to, but you have to take action first, because guidance, inspiration without action is nothing. That's what they're saying to me right now. It's really important for you to know. So just act on the guidance that you get. They ask me to act on my guidance constantly. Like, for example, last week, it was actually 2 weeks ago now that they asked me to do my mini launch of my memoir. And it didn't make sense from a business point of view for me, because I was promoting something completely different at the time. And I actually resented a bit that guidance to launch my memoir. But I'm glad I did, because it led to so many synchronicities. I couldn't see the bigger picture. I couldn't see that there was someone in the business group that was going to ask on International Women's Day, hello, I actually don't know how to pronounce your name. So if you could type it up in the Roman alphabet for me, I would try and call you by your name. So I want you to understand that business guides can help you in very practical ways, and that you don't need to see an apparition for them to be able to help you. And this is what I teach. This is why I'm doing my webinar on Monday, so that you have an idea. It's mostly through automatic writing, but there's a lot of things that come into it that I want you to understand, so that you do it in a safe way. Because in effect, we can channel just about anything. From dark entities to incredibly high vibe guides. And as I said earlier, I think even Donald Trump has guides, and I wouldn't want to channel them at all. But if I do that from a place of being, we all have ups and downs in our moods, and I had a very low yesterday, and I had to have a nap, and I actually pretty much close up shop. Not that I work on Wednesdays, but I had to just pull away from everything, because I was feeling a lot of emotions that were uncomfortable, let's put it that way. Now, if I had worked with guides at that point, don't worry about my name. I had the choice to watch the news about Brexit or listen to you. I think you made the right choice. I think I'm a little bit more positive than the news about Brexit. Actually, let's just cancel that word. It's charged with so much. Let me have just a quick sip of water. Where was I? I lost a bit my thread. Yes, I said it's very, very important when you do some channeling that you do it only when you're a high vibe. That's also why I've recorded my podcast episode about how to be high vibe no matter what the circumstances. And it was actually really funny, because I'm listening to my episodes again to try and improve them. And by the way, I want to apologize for the one with Mitli Southey, although it was amazing. There was all these clanking noises in the background, because I think she was in the kitchen or something. And I'm trying to see if my son can iron out all those kinks so that the sound is better for you to listen to. So anyway, yesterday I was listening to my own podcast, and I was actually inspiring myself to lift myself out of my funk. It was really funny. And it's important. All these things are important. So this is what I'm going to be teaching next Monday in my free webinar. I do ask you to sign up with your email address. Please know that it's very safe with me. I don't share email addresses. It's in my MailChimp account. So that means that you can unsubscribe at any time. But I do want to warn you about the unsubscribe option, because and I'm not trying to do like one of those scaremongering thing about Facebook, but apparently when I was blissfully asleep last night, Facebook was down for quite a while. And as a consequence, we have to understand that if we don't, the email is one of the safest ways to keep in touch with the people we want to hear from. So when on my email list, and I have actually 3. I have one that's only for my memoir. So if you're signed up to that one, you will only receive news about my memoir. I have one about the slimming stuff, same thing. And then I have the main one, which is called I Can Help You Thrive, which is for people who are in business, who want to be in business one day, who think that they have a business in them and want to know how to birth that business, because it's a big step to take. It's a step I had to take when I left my job as a corporate lawyer, and the journey can be a real challenge. And if you want some help in that journey, I would suggest you sign up for my newsletter, because this way you won't miss any of my Facebook lives. They also go after that on my YouTube channel. I'm on a podcast, and you will know when my content comes up. You also know what changes happen in my business. Like, for example, on the 1st of March, I raised my prices. So I reached out to my community to let them know they could grab a session at the old price. All that sort of thing. It's quite important for us to keep in touch. And you know how on the Facebook feed, you actually probably see only a fraction of what people post, especially on a business page. So it's a way, when you sign up for my newsletter, that you make sure that you get my content. The other way that you can do that is by selecting my page as a See First page, and you do that under the following options. So sorry for digressing a little bit about this, but I think it's important. I was just talking about the fact that actually business guides temper with electronics and with the internet. They're very good at, for example, if you do a Google search, and you've set your intent to ask your guides to help you find the perfect information for something that you're doing, you just type it in Google and you will get the information that you need. It will pop up. They do tamper with the algorithm. They do tamper with Google. Believe me, I've seen it happen so many times. It's just mind-blowing. So that's the way that business guides, spirit guides, can help us on a daily basis. They could help you by showing a way for you to live your day job if that's your dream. For me, I didn't really have that option because I didn't have the courage to leave a job that enabled me to feed my children. So what happened is after I trained in Reiki, hi Janet, so lovely to see you here. After I trained in Reiki 1, and that was on the sabbatical I took from my job as a lawyer, I went back to work, and I was just like, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I was like, how can I stay in this environment where I feel like I already felt always like a misfit, because I was a lawyer with a big heart. And I'm not saying lawyers don't have hearts, don't get me wrong, but it's not really an environment that's conducive to you doing heart-to-heart connections and that expansiveness that the work that I do now can bring. And so I asked for guidance. I went for a walk. I think I've mentioned this maybe before, but I think they want me to share it now. Went for a walk around the block where I worked, and I said, what now? And an angel feather, literally, the sky was a perfect blue. There was no birds around, I promise you. And suddenly there's an angel feather literally landed on my hand. Now that didn't give me the answer that I needed, because I didn't know what it meant, other than the angels wanted to comfort me and give me some guidance on that everything was okay. And literally within a year of that, I lost my job, which forced me to be thrown into the deep end of the pool and reinvent myself. But what I was going to say is that if you're still in a mainstream job and you're not happy in your job, well, first, the one thing that's really important is to be grateful about the job that you have at this point, because it does serve a purpose, and what resist persists. But then I think I can help you to create that business that you dream of, so that you can make an impact, whether it's as an author, whether it's as an entrepreneur, a consultant, whatever it is. I love to help people follow their dream and find their groove, find exactly what will work for them. So business spirit guides, and when I say business, Janet's just joined us, and I know she's an author. That can also be an author. I have actually a team of authors in my spirit team that appeared. I mentioned them yesterday, but you might not have watched my video number 2 of my 4-part series. I have actually a couple of authors in my team that appeared to me about 2.5 years ago, I think, when I was focusing mostly on book coaching, and it's still something that I do. I'm going to have a big announcement sometime next week because I'm launching my Get Started with Your Book again, my 5-module online program. And they presented and they said they were called the W's. And I will post later today the photo, if I can find it, I hope I can find it, of how I had the confirmation that they were called the W's. And I said, of course it's W for writers, except that since that they've, 3 of them who had W's in their names have stepped up as the sort of the leaders of the pack, and that I really love them to bits. So if you want to learn how to connect to your spirit guides and work with your spirit guides in your business, whether you're an author, an entrepreneur, or both of them, because actually that goes together, I invite you to join my webinar on Monday. You need to sign up with your email. Go back to the beginning of this video and listen to it again if you need to. There's a lot of information in it, even if you don't sign up for my webinar, and on the videos for day 1, day 2, and oh my god, today's Thursday, so this must be video number 3, and then I'm going to do another one tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about whether our spirit guides have to be famous for or not. I would have preferred mine not to be famous, but because it always grated me, that whole thing about, well, whatever. I had this thing about actually celebrities, but I'm working on it. I'm really working on it, because I think there's something a bit silly about the way we treat our celebrities. They're normal people after all. So that's all for today. I hope you join me for Monday's webinar, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everyone. And if you have any questions about this, whatever I talked about, please post them underneath here, or reach out to me in Messenger. I'm always happy to receive messages. Bye for now.